I started day 2 with 6 big blinds. So the strategy is just gonna play my game. It's gonna sound very cringe, but I'm just gonna play my game and make the best of it, to be honest. If I win today, that would mean actually that the wedding is gonna have more guests included, basically.
Jarrison, pocket 3 is on the button. Obviously would be shoving into the other small stack. But Moolhuizen does have chips in the big blind. Not a ton.
Oh, he's called. He's snap called with 9s.
Wait, is that his lucky hand?
9 ball corner pak. 9's.
Paire de 9, paire de 3. Ouais.
I love money, money loves me.
Yeah.
Devitke, trojke. 8,8 of zo.
Benny Glaser on Scott Margerison's rail. Margerison is going to have to get very lucky here. We saw a 3 folded. Ace 3 was folded.
Moolhuizen won a flip with pocket 9s with 10 players remaining.
Yeah, I'm just.
And his opponent had his favorite hand, which was pocket 9s.
Let's have 5. 5. 5 is fair.
5 is fair.
Margerison with 1 immediate out. Running cards required, alternatively.
9 tous.
Oh, that's also the same.
That's a runner. So Margerison now has 5 outs.
You didn't want it on the river, right? On the turn, you wanted it on the turn. 10 of spades.
Any 5, you're right. I'll take any 5. Any
5 or a 3 to save Scott Margerison.
Juice.
Jack.
I like how you think, huh?
Jack of spades. Jack. Ah.
It's a 7 on the river, 9s hold, and we lose Scott Margerison in 6th place. First player eliminated from the FPS main event final table. Cashes for 95,680 euros.
Juryev limping in. 20 big blinds. Moolhuizen 5 high in the big. Gonna check his option to the floption. 9, 7, 4, 2 spades. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8 versus 4, 5, 7, 9. Pair of 4s out in front.
Considerable equity here for Zurjov, though.
Yeah, 45% with 8 high. 1.2 million the bet. 1 big blind, which is a third of the pot.
Yeah, it's going absolutely nowhere. I think he's just weighing up his options here regarding potentially maybe check raising. I think I'm just going to call here a lot of the time. You have the up and down. If you're going to check raise, you usually do it with less equity.
Trip 4s now for Mateusz. Those 8 and 6 outs no longer exist for Juryev.
Yep.
Got to make the straight now. And the straight can't be made with a spade.
Yes, indeed.
And it looks like Juryev probably thinks he's got more outs than he really does. Oh, no, he's betting here, not calling. Excuse me.
Yeah, he's leading. So we saw a similar line just now. Joe, I don't know if you saw the hand. I think you might have been just joining us. But Zurjov does seem to be a fan of this sort of turn 1/4 pot lead situation where there's potentially a scare card, slows down the action a little bit. I did the same thing with the king-queen, if you guys remember, on the turns ace-9-9 turn from the previous spot where he was playing against Ruisi. And it doesn't get there. On the previous encounter, Joe, he just decided to give it up. Tried to buy himself a little bit of a free card, potentially try and get some folds in the turn if he runs into absolute air. Set himself up for a future bluff, perhaps. I don't know if this is the combo you pull the trigger with here, though, especially without a spade in your hand. Yeah, I mean, I think, like I was saying, I think if you're Zurjov, you're going to do way better if you have 8-6 with the 6 of spades or something, right? If you want to try and rep the flush.
Juryev blasting this river. over 6 million into 8.4. Seems like a pretty shrug call situation here with trip fours.
Yeah, I mean, your opponent's showing a lot of strength here, right? And that's the power of Zerjav's play. He's running into a hand he probably doesn't put him on too often here. But yeah, 5-4 is going to be good here a ton of the time. But when you see people take that line, Joe, this is the way people do play flushes and potentially hands like 8-10, which rivered the straight. So if Zerjav is sitting there with 8-10 with a 10 of spades or something like that, you're not feeling good. If you got the 2 spades, you're not in trouble. You're not feeling too good about that either.
Pocket tens.
Any chance for a walk? Probably not, huh?
No chance for a walk.
That table talk here is so good.
Very unlikely.
Any chance of a walk? All right, so what's the setup here, Joe? We got Zerjav and Moolhuizen again. The effective stack here is 15 big blinds. I think there's probably almost there's some limping here, but I think you're still going to probably put in like a 2.5x raise here, blind v blinds. I think small blind prefers to raise rather than trap at these stack depths.
Why was just shoving into the 15 big blinds? Is your hands too strong?
Way too strong. Yeah, you want all the action with this combo. It has great playability even from out of position. And don't need as much visibility because your hand is just going to be the best hand so often. It has great playability. So the two compete with each other sometimes. Moolhuizen has the kind of hand that should basically always call as well. Taking his time. He knows that this is probably too good to fold when you have absolute position. Does call, but he's in big trouble. He's going to be miles behind here, Joe.
Pretty rough setup. See how much trouble the flop causes. Queen 9-5, 2 clubs. So Moolhuizen does flop a draw.
Your hand is just going to be good so often. There's tons of stuff you get value from. Having the 10 of clubs is particularly interesting here, though, because, of course, if your opponent is calling, you'd like him to have a flush draw. You'd like him to have a hand like 8-10, that kind of thing. Maybe Jack 10 is another combo you get a lot of value from here. So not the best in terms of blocking combos that you want action from. However, still just way too good not to continue. And, yep, 2.8 sounds good. That's approximately what you'd expect.
So I shouldn't have been surprised to see the float before. This one a little more surprising.
No, I like it.
Oh, you do like it?
No, as long I was saying the raise would have been really
Oh, a
tricky.
raise. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
7 of clubs on the turn. Does put a double gutter out there now.
Just up and down.
Just up and down. 7, 8, 9, 10. That's right. That's right. Sorry, I didn't count on my fingers this time, and that's always a mistake.
So now, because Zerjav has the 10 of clubs, Joe, he's going to have the best hand a ton. His opponent's going to have plenty of 5x, plenty of 9x. And he is blocking both straights and flushes. He has a great bluff catching hand. Again, not that dissimilar to the Queen 10 that we saw earlier. And I don't think he's checking with the intention of folding. Not in a trillion years.
Moolhuizen leading up. Loading up for a small bet.
Yeah, he can bet nice and small here. And I think that's really key, Joe, because if Moolhuizen has the turn club flush, he wants to get action. So this is not unbalanced. This is how a strong hand would be played.
Right. Okay.
But by betting small, you also allow yourself to have more big blinds to shove on the river if indeed you need to find another barrel for a bluff. Zerjav's definitely not folding, not in a billion years.
Yeah, so this is just kind of unlucky.
So makes the call.
5th and final card is a 3 of spades. The brick of bricks. No one improves. The board doesn't get any scarier for anyone. Zerjav checks once again to Mateusz.
This is so interesting, Joe. It's like I said, 10s is just a very strong hand here, and you have significant blockers, but also when your opponent's bluffing, you really want him to have like a hand like Jack 10 here, right? You really want him to have 8-10 here. So it's cutting in both directions under these circumstances because it makes it a little bit less likely they have those combos that are made. Well, the club, for example, in this case, not as important for the fact that there's no straight.
And Moolhuizen has gone for it.
But has not shipped, right?
Nope. But has bluffed this river.
7.
Bet 7 million out of the 9.8 left behind. has bet 1/3 of the pot. What sorts of hands does he expect to fold out for this sizing, Nick? Not a queen.
Maybe some 9x, maybe some 5x, maybe a hand like pocket 8s, maybe a hand like pocket 6s. Maybe it's just ace X with the ace of clubs, which of course still has to call on the turn, right? See that flop, call the turn, now it's no hand, right? Maybe some ace jack with the ace of clubs, for example. Maybe even king 10 with the king of clubs or something like that.
Right, okay, plenty of non-pair hands, yeah, okay.
I would imagine Zerjab is definitely leaning towards a call here. But like I said, it's both good to have these cards and bad. There's upsides to having the exact combo that he has and a downside. Moolhuizen, so many of his bluffs come from the 10x combos, and having 10s does not help you to be in that spot.
Wow.
Great poker. Great poker. Excellent, excellent play from both players.
Happy, sad.
He is
Thrilled.
thrilled.
I mean, you've known me for 3 days. I'm always happy.
No, you always try to be positive.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sure. You have a good memory, yeah?
6s for Bakal.
Here we go.
10 big blinds on the button. Let's be having you. Oh, interesting. Decides to min raise from the button.
You could get a lot of credit for this. Feels like...
You could also get shoved on by ace deuce and then be in an awful spot.
But how many people are raising 6s there? You're going to be raising, raised trapping there. On a 10 big blind stack, doesn't that seem super fishy?
Yeah.
Well, we got the defend from Moolhuizen. We've got a jack 9-5 flop. 6 is still ahead for now.
This is why you shove, says Jake's Famous Stakes. Yes, we all were hoping to see a shove there.
Famous Stakes.
Trying to be positive when I see the min open. Unfortunately, the big blind is almost never going to fold to just a min.
Oh. Oh, it's just a bet. I heard about raise. I
Yeah.
thought like he was, you know.
He's raising from 0.
Oh. Check raise alert. Weakness has been detected.
I mean, I don't know how you sniff this out. This feels like how people play super strong hands when they're short stacked, especially amateurs. I feel every time I'm in one of my $150 nightlies and somebody plays a hand like this, it's kings, aces, and that's it. Not even queens.
Don't forget that Moolhuizen is getting information about what's happened at the final table so
True.
far, and there is a pattern here. When Bakal has a middling hand, he bets small.
And has likely played with Bakal for the last 2 or 3 days too, right? We have no idea. We assume that they played the final table together, at least the parts of it that happened before today.
Playing down from 9 to 6 last night.
And who knows how long before that. So plenty of information to work with. You're right. Moolhuizen does have a big rail there. We saw him looking at either an iPad or a device from time to time.
He folds, the check raise gets through, and once again, Yassin Bakal is playing 6 big blinds.
And we can focus on the positive there. And just Mateusz Moolhuizen, what a hand.
Yes, he did.
What a hand.
Ace king for Zeryav.
I think this is definitely one that you want to be limping some of the time, raising some of the time. And just to check back, yeah, 8-5 off, not the combo you want to do weird stuff with here necessarily, James.
Oh, trip 5s for Moolhuizen. Zeryav, however, has whiffed this board. But ace-king will still be the best hand a decent percentage of the time.
It will, absolutely, yeah. On Jack 5-5, heads up with ranges being this wide, ace-king is still very significant showdown. And as a general rule, guys, I know it seems a bit trite for me to say, oh, a little bit of limping, a little bit of raising. That seems a bit wishy-washy. But generally speaking, as we get deeper, we're going to want to play our big hands faster because we need to build the pot more frequently at a faster pace in order to get stacks in potentially. As we get under 30 big blinds effective, the traps become way more frequent just because it's so much more likely that your opponent is going to shove versus limp, or they're going to try and ISO, and occasionally they're going to raise versus limp and you can put in a big shove, and you've picked up a significant portion of the total chips in play because that raise from out of position has to be like 3 big blinds, 3.5 big blinds, depending on the effective stack depth. So it is important that you recognize the difference between 30 big blinds and 25 big blinds and 20 big blinds is so significant. And that's where a lot of the subtlety in heads up exists, where you got to study those a lot more closely than perhaps, the gap between a 60 big blind pot and a 50 big blind pot if you are 8-handed or 9-handed or whatever.
So let's just recap the flop action. Zheryav bet 2 million, got check raised by Moolhuizen to 5 million. Zheryav called. We've gone to the turn, which hasn't changed anything, other than the fact that Zheryav is now drawing dead.
I don't think there's any slowdown. If you check raise here, you're going to continue all your 5x. Some of your stronger Jack-X combos are not unreasonable as well. This isn't one of the spots where the backdoor flush draw started coming in as well, James. On a Jack 5-5 board, you will see people check raising with, 1 over card and backdoor spades, 1 over card, backdoor clubs, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There is quite a lot of check raising on these dry textures. And if you want to balance check raising 8-5, where you're this strong, you actually need to have some of those other cool sort of backdoor potential items as well. Maybe a hand like 8-7 of spades might still continue here as well, right? Check raise the flop with the backdoor flush draw. But on Jack 5-5, it's a bit different.
A bet of 8 million called by the ace-king. Will he call the river as well? 32 million in the pot.
Moolhuizen's got to be loving this, James. Such a juicy spot. When you get 2 calls, they're going to have significant showdown, including a couple traps that contain like aces and kings and queens as well. Let's not forget that.
8.
Same as the turn bet, 8 million.
The size here is really interesting. James obviously wants to get paid as often as possible, and I can't help but think that this is actually a very well-sized bet to try and get exactly this kind of combination to call, but I'm not really sure, James. I don't know how often Moolhuizen's going to be weak here. Like I said, maybe some 7x, but we're talking about a very specific part of a check raising range that might not even necessarily exist in Moolhuizen's game. So just a tough one for Zheryav.
This is only the second hand of heads up, but it is a decisive pot. Regardless of whether Zheryav calls this river or not. 40 million. Could be 48 million. But the fold from Zheryav, and that will put distance between them. That changes the dynamic. Well, that is a raise from the button with pocket 5s. And that is a call from the big blind.
Interesting here, James. I think 5s is probably a combo that prefers a lot of limping here. It's not one that does particularly well in raised pots, but when you limp, you do give your opponent the opportunity to shove significantly worse hands that you dominate in particular. At this stack depth, plenty of ace, deuce, ace 3, ace 4, ace 5 kind of combos that you can still call with for the 25 bigs. In addition, keeping the pot nice and small post flop, and very frequently you can kind of just battle it out for the small ones.
And we don't know who has the best hand right now because we've only seen one of Moolhuizen's cards.
So we missed the flop bet in position, which I think is fine from Zheryav. Is, if that's the correct pronunciation. I think betting the turn is mandatory. You want to go big here too. Oh, wow, quite a small continue on the turn. I think my reasoning here is because you want to get all the value from the sort of club draws, potentially a gut shot with a club draw, that kind of thing. Given the action thus far, you're going to have the best hand here a lot of the time, and that's a jack on the river.
Okay, so Moolhuizen could be even stronger than a pair of jacks, but we know he has at least that, so has 5s beaten.
By betting small on the turn here, I think you're probably giving a lot of clubs the correct price, especially if you imagine that you have 5s. There's going to be a lot of clubs with 1 overcard. That's going to be clean as well. you know, Jack 5 with the 5 of clubs or something like that is not completely unreasonable here. I think the bigger bet is probably just going to do you better because he'll still have to call with some 3x. So it's not like you're purely trying to punish clubs. You can still get calls from the combinations that contain a 3 with the 10s and 3s.
So we know that this pot is going to go in the direction of Moolhuizen. Again, it's a case of how big is the pot going to be.
Check.
Jack's good. Gets paid off. And that is going to see Zverev drop down to around 20 bigs. 2-1 chip lead for Mateusz Moolhuizen. Moolhuizen with the best hand. King 10 checks his option in the big blind after Zverev limp with Queen 4. And the flop is 9-4 tray. So Zverev has flop best.
The higher the kicker here, the much, much, much better it becomes to bet your second pairs because if you are going to be betting all your 4x, you need to be aware of the fact that your opponent will sometimes just have you outkicked with kind of some of the combos that they want to defend here. When you're playing ranges this wide, every little counts, every little subtlety of the game is important because it's a lot less to do with a clearly defined strong range versus weak range, and it's more to do with how do I play ATC against this guy who's forced to play ATC.
6.5.
Pair of 4s leads for 2.5 million, and Moolhuizen raises to 6.5 million.
And immediately punished here. 2 overcards in the backdoor of hearts. I would be surprised to see a fold here, James. I think that Queen 4 is a little bit too strong if your opponent is capable of bluffing like this. And of course, at this stage, they'll know that they are. You're beating a lot of straight draws. You're beating a lot of hard draws. So we're going to go to the turn here.
And that turn is the 10 of diamonds. Moolhuizen now with the advantage.
12.
Does go for 12 mil.
That is a call from Zverev.
Yeah, I feel for Zverev here. The 10 feels like a somewhat inconsequential turn on his texture, James. If you were beating some of the draws that we were describing, the 10 doesn't really change things. So I appreciate why Zverev's sticking around here, and I do think that this is good poker, despite the fact that Moolhuizen has managed to find the top pair on the turn. So this is not an inconsequential run out, and actually might give Zverev an additional opportunity to get away if we do see another bet on the river.
Shoves on Zverev, and if he calls, it is over. If he folds, he'll be left with 10 big blinds, 11 bigs. I mean, it's better than having no chips at all, but either way, he's in pretty horrible shape right now.
Absolutely. This is rough. This is a really rough spot. Heads up is just such a tricky, tricky game. And when you're playing against good opponents, they will put you in spots like this where the 4 is absolutely still good.
If he heroes with a pair of 4s, this tournament is over.
I really want to flick it in for some reason.
You want to flick it in for some reason?
Yes. It's for good?
I mean, I'm not allowed to tell you. They'll banish me from PokerStars.
Mm.
Genuinely wants to make this call. Genuinely thinks the 4 could be good.
This 5. This 6.
Again, I'm not allowed to tell you, buddy. can ask me what my favorite food is, for example.
What is?
Sushi.
The more you know.
Japanese, to be exact. Teppanyaki.
Okay. There's a certain air of confidence about Moolhuizen right now.
James, it's the teppanyaki tell. Everybody knows you don't discuss teppanyaki at the poker table.
You remember the quote, right? Batman quote.
It's a good code.
It's a good quote.
Ah, fuck's sake. Sorry if I'm not allowed to sweat.
You just did.
Seems like an occasion to do it.
Absolutely. Can't be loosey-goosey eating a sandwich. And that's exactly what Moolhuizen was doing there. As we get the fold from Zheryav, we are going to play on.
7-5.
One of the possibilities.
Yeah, great poker there. Both players, I think, playing really well.
Spraggy for Moolhuizen. Ace-7 off. Shoves on Zheryav.
Yep, definitely a shove here.
And he calls all in with King-Queen.
A7 tegen koning-vrouw, voor alles. Voor alles. Maximum effort.
Moolhuizen ahead, but not by much.
Aas is de baas, toch?
Wow, huge moment here, guys. Perfect shove, perfect call. Both players doing it right here. And this is for all the jewels.
Well, if ace high holds, and it will 58% of the time, we have our champion in the FPS main event. Zheryav looking for a king or a queen or some straight possibilities. The flop. 10-5-5, looking good for ace high.
Always a sweat, chat.
Harte 3 op de turn. Weet je dan? Harte 3 op de turn.
Zheryav has 6 outs, needs a king or a queen.
Dat is goed, dat is goed.
6 on the turn.
Come on.
And it's the 6 of hearts. That takes away 2 of Zheryav's outs. Only 4 cards he can hit now to survive. Mateusz Moolhuizen, a 91% favorite to win this record-breaking tournament. The river is the deuce of hearts. It's a flush for Moolhuizen.
Wow, incredible stuff.
He takes it down, besting a field of 4,149 to win the biggest France Poker Series main event yet. Well played, both guys, but a great result for this guy who's become a fixture on the EPT. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to subscribe for more awesome poker content. And check out this video. The YouTube algorithm seems confident you'll like it.